members.
Just 1 minute to check. Well, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Binghamton City School District Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. The first item tonight, before we get into our business, will be to have a moment of silence in memory of Brenda Peak. She had joined the district as a teacher on October 3rd, 2005, and sadly had passed away September 27th, 2024, and she'll certainly be missed by many, by students, friends, family members, and many others in the community. So at this time, we'll have a moment of silence in honor of Brenda. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, do we not know by heart?
I do allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, yeah, right.
I was happy to lead us in that, but I'd rather see the kids. So it's good that we got that to work. Okay, at this time, we'll call Rochelle Acquisto forward for this month's school recognition, Jefferson Elementary School. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know that we need this. I think we're okay. Right? Do I have to put it on? Press the button. Okay. Thanks. So thanks for having me. I'm Rochelle Acquisto, the principal at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School. Tonight I'm going to share 3 quick things that we're excited about at TJ. The first thing is something new that we're doing. We're hoping that you see the link between all of them that I present tonight. And it's just about having some fun every day while there. And we're really just trying to create an environment where not only students and staff, everybody really feels like they belong to the school community and can have some fun throughout the day. So one of the new things that we are doing this year is our lunchtime activity rooms. So recently, to the BTA contract, teachers are doing 30 minutes of a lunch duty. And this year I asked them to think outside of the box and do some club type of activity rooms. And so these are some of the activity rooms that we have up and running at TJ, just some different options for students during the lunch hour. And here are some of the pictures, just a couple pictures that we snapped just to show you. We've got some Lego room, we've got directed drawing, art club, which is a really big one, crafts, and then we even have a multiplication club, which is a picture up at the top there, which is actually very well attended. Okay. Another thing that we are proud of at TJ is, I don't know if you can see in the bottom, there says DOF, and this is actually something that came up very randomly. One day I was meeting with my shared leadership team, and I had received a piece of mail, and it was addressed to the DOF, the Department of Fun, and we were like, oh my God, we need one of those departments at TJ. And so part of SLT, we kind of created a little subcommittee, and these are just some of the activities that we've done last year and are looking forward to. Two of them are from this year. So the one at the bottom is our TJ Snake. So every student the first week of school painted a little rock, and that's now out in the front of the school, so they have a little place there. Last year at the holiday time, we did holidays around the world, and we really focused on the cultures of the students that we had at TJ so that we could learn a little bit different about their cultures and celebrate them throughout the month of December. We had Irish dancers in at one point. The picture at the top is our Music in the Park, where we go as an entire building and bring our blankets and kind of just watch a concert of some sort. Last year we had Alyssa Crosby come and perform for us, and the kids absolutely love that. And then down at the bottom is another school-wide activity that we did as a whole. Every student made a fish, and you can read the message there. So a lot more activities to come this year, but just some activities that we tried to, again, build a sense of community. And then the last thing that I want to share is, as we tie it all in, another one of our activities was around state testing time. We really pushed our students to have that grit, to hunker down and really do something that is not fun. We tried to make it as fun as possible, and students were able to, leading up to the exam, they were able to earn basketballs, and this is the starting point of it, but it kind of grew more as it went, and they were able to write their names on it, and once they achieved their goal, and they were able to put it up there. And I think it made a little bit of a difference, right? Our scores went up, and there's some of our scores. So we're really, really proud of that. We were proud of the hard work from not only all the staff, but the students. They really left it all out on the court, so be it, on those days, and their scores really showed. So that's all I got.
I know we mentioned this on opening day, some celebrations, but I really just want to recognize Michelle and her leadership, particularly her instructional leadership, to watch her with her faculty and staff and all the work that they do to support kids. To see that they have access the highest level of instruction is really remarkable. And last year ended the year with 78% reading and grade level, which, as I continue to say, we haven't seen those numbers in quite a while. So thank you for sharing that. Teaching and learning can be a lot of fun at the same time, achieve at high levels.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your show.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see everything going on. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Can I just ask, what do you think made the biggest difference in the past year or two with the kids' level of achievement?
I think intentionality. I think that everything that we do at TJ is done with purpose. We spend a lot of time talking about what our goals are and how we're going to get there, and we focus on that. So a lot of and the kids knew what their goals were. And again, we talked about grit and how it's not fun. Sometimes you gotta do things that aren't fun, and you gotta hunker down and do it. And they really did. I could not be more proud of how hard the students worked last year. And they kept their spirits up, and it was a really good experience all around. And that is not something I say often on state test days. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda will be the first public comment portion of this meeting. Anyone wishing to address the board will have 3 minutes to do so. By law, we are not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters here in the open session. Once you're acknowledged, we ask to state your name and your relationship to the district. If anything requires further follow-up after the session tonight, we ask that you contact the board clerk at 762-8100, extension 319, or at browns@binghamtonschools.org. Would anyone like to speak to the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes from our work session and regular meeting held on September 17, 2024. Could I have a motion to approve and accept the minutes? Moved by Albert, seconded by Shante. All in favor? Aye. Carries unanimously. Brings us to the financial report for the month of September 2024. Are there any questions or comments on the financial report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business, and the first item on unfinished business will be to continue the discussion from last month on discussing non-resident tuition. And there's an associated policy with non-resident tuition that was discussed at the policy committee meeting earlier here in October. And it's based on a set of practices we had in place for a while, and we had looked at as a board similar policies from other districts that are in the area. And so at the policy committee meeting, what we basically did was put our Binghamton City School District policy alongside some of the others and try to get a sense of, is there language that we would like to include that we thought we really liked from the other policies. And so some of the things that we are working on so we can have a revised policy, the November committee meeting will be in particular portions that would add language as far as a year-by-year review. So if a student from outside the district is admitted to one of our schools, that we would look at academic standing and behavioral record, but it's also on a space-permitted basis. And so the rationale is that somebody who's a resident of the district should not be disadvantaged by somebody external. So let's just say somebody from outside the district, like Windsor SV, decides they would like to come to our district, and they go to Calvin Coolidge for elementary school, and the following year you have an increase in the amount of kids that are kindergarten age in that particular section of the district that could force a non-resident student to have to move to a different building, so you don't make someone from the Calvin Coolidge side of the city have to go to a different elementary school that's further away. So language that addresses those types of situations. So more to come on that, and certainly when that policy gets revised and it's sent to us for the usual 3 reads, we'll have that for the group to look at. But that should hopefully summarize pretty well the discussion as far as the policy itself. The other item that would left to be taken care of is setting the non-resident tuition rates. So this is a draft resolution that has the same rates that we looked at last month. So if somebody was willing to make a motion, we can add this as a resolution, tacking this on to the G resolutions to be voted on and approved here tonight. So the rates are all the same: regular ed, full day K through 6, $33.61, 7 through 12, $34.74 for students with disabilities, K through 6, $14.33.31, 7 through 12, $14.444. And then also having a non-resident tuition fee of $680 should anyone from outside the district wish to take a single class at the high school. We wanted to, after the discussion last week, we felt that was important to make that option available. Question, Albert, or did you want to make a motion to add it?
Going back to the first issue you mentioned, I think we brought up the issue of distance learning. At one time in the district, we were heavily involved at high school and offering courses to other schools. And charging for that service. We all, particularly the business department and some of our science courses, schools that we're not offering, couldn't find a physics teacher, for instance, and we have in Binghamton, so we go to the lecture hall, we would send lessons to other schools. We were working with 3 or 4 school districts, Harpersville, Windsor, as I recall. We did that for quite a long time. It was mostly in the area of accounting, business law, advanced accounting. So my question is that something that would be included in this discussion? Not just the charging tuition for, for non-resident tuition rates, but the opportunity to resurrect a distance learning program in our district to, not just for revenue purposes, but to help kids in other districts. And it's part of the sharing concept that I believe we're going to take a look at how we're going to share services. You know what I'm talking about.
So I believe the resolution that Steve just passed around included a rate for courses. Right? So that there would be a charge for those because they're non-residents. And I think what I was hearing in terms of the policy committee is that they would establish some of those similar conditions, right? There'd have to be an opportunity, an open slot, right? All residents offered first, now an open slot to be able to have access to that. I don't believe, though, we've had discussion around virtual learning, which is what we would be talking. So I know I'm aware that, for example, Owego Lake offers virtual learning, and I'm not even sure they continue to do this, but right after COVID, they reconfigured, and I think teachers may have taught 5 classes, and 4 of them was with students in Owego, but section 5 was a virtual learning class, so students who did not want to return to the building because of COVID, as well as open it up at a tuition basis, could access that remotely. That's not what I believe that this is, although I would say we offer like a virtual ELA class right now for students who are looking to either obtain credit, Regents credit for ELA, or their ELA up to a degree in which they can access their GED. Could that be a course listed for availability? I think it would require us to go and look at the trends around courses to not exceed class limits. We don't want to push courses up to maximum for increasing, for getting dollars in tuition and have the detriment of those students who are there that are residents. So we have to look at, those components are dependent, but the regionalization conversation that's going on right now is a lot of data collection, and then my understanding is through the district superintendent, Rebecca Stone, she's going to bring all the superintendents together to look at what are some opportunities for sharing some services. I don't know that the conversation right now is fine-tuned on academics necessarily, because it could be shared transportation services to BOCES programs, for example. We've talked about that. Transportation for homeless students, McKinney-Vento, we've talked about that. But it very well could lead to that. So I think having an established rate per course would be unique. It is unique in the region. Right now, the rates are, the review, the data that I shared with the board before, were all for yearly rates. And in some cases, they were less than what they could charge. But I think they were doing that because of, for example, Weave's, I think it was $1,500 for some reason, it's ringing in my mind for the year. But they were thinking that this was not, those were more remote sections, right? Not necessarily, and no additional cost to the district. I don't know if I answered your question. I don't know that we've been, the sharing is absolutely good, but as you know, some of the courses also have additional dollars that we are supporting our residents with. So, to be some advocacy that if you're not a resident and you're taking a course that ends in an examination, and right now Binghamton's picking up the cost of taking those exams, that cost may also have to be placed on that student who's a non-resident to be fair and equitable in terms of where our money's going. I want to share, I want to support others for sure. That can only enrich us, and if it also gives us access to other opportunities. And we have we're blessed with lots of variety in this region. So for example, the battery lab, if you will, that's now in Shenango Forks, we have 5 students at our high school who are interested in engaging that. That's running through BOCES, but Susquehanna Valley is supporting their transportation because they drive right by our high school to get there. So some of the things are happening organically. We have many students at our high school that I know are interested in farming, urban farming, but farming. Well, we go in Windsor have some farms, and Windsor definitely is a working farm. Maybe there's an opportunity there in the future. So I think that's going to evolve, but I see that more as you're doing for us and we're doing a little bit for you, kind of shared services as opposed to exchange of tuition. And we'll see where that conversation goes. But that's definitely one that's happening all year long.
Any other comments or questions? I'm going to make a motion that we add this to the G resolutions as Resolution 2024-10 G17. Do I have a second? Okay, seconded by Eliza. All in favor? Aye. Mary Ann, is that yes or no? Okay, sorry. Okay, so all in favor, everyone was in favor of that, nobody opposed, so that will be Resolution 2024-10 G17. Also under unfinished business, I'm going to make a motion that we continue the conversation about the NISBA resolution from last month's meeting regarding the lockdown drills and submitting a resolution on behalf of the district to next year's NISBA annual meeting. Can I have a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye? Okay. So I'm going to pass out. So where we left this off last month was that Liza had agreed to draft text on this resolution that we could send in using the form that NISBA makes available on the website. So basically, there's just two forms, two sections of the form to fill out. One is the resolved portion, and then the other is the rationale. So for the benefit of those who do not have this piece of paper in front of them to refer to, they'll go ahead and read this out loud. So the resolution would be as follows: resolved that the number of lockdown drills be reduced from 4 to 2 each year, with one taking place in the fall and the other in the spring. And the rationale: the current requirement of 4 lockdown drills per year results in the student having participated in 24 lockdown drills prior to the completion of 5th grade and 52 before the end of 12th grade. Through that lens, the current number of required drills is excessive, especially because there is no research showing this number of drills ensures more safety. To date, research is not conclusive as to the amount of trauma caused by lockdown drills. It is our responsibility as advocates for all children to mitigate potential trauma or damage to our students. Any thoughts or questions around the language I just read out loud?
Steve, the other thing I would add is, when thinking about drills, is currently if you have a drill that you didn't plan, it also does not count. So I don't know, I mean, since we have plenty of time to submit it, we had a little bit of a conversation about that. So I wonder, if there maybe is room in this to add consideration being given for a drill that occurs as a result of an unplanned drill could also additionally count, so that we're not, so for example, a fire alarm is accidentally pulled in an elevator and the fire department comes and the building evacuates. Well, there's nothing wrong, there's no fire, that does not count as a fire drill. It's not one of the ones that are, because it wasn't planned, apparently. And I think that the rules around the planning have to do with different days of the week, different times of the day, and they want to make sure that they're occurring in a variety of settings, and so that's probably likely why they don't count them. But if the consideration could be given that they count, I think that may also either help support this resolution, or it might be a piece that others look at and say, you know what, that's a piece that we should grab onto. So just a thought.
I had forgotten we had that, or I know we talked about it, I forgot to include that.
Lockdown drills and fire drills, are they considered the same thing?
They're different things. One is staying within the building in a spot, and a fire drill being to be activated. Correct.
Any other thoughts on amendments to the language?
Are we including that for the 1 for 2, 1 for
for the spring. If it happens like unintentionally, would it count if the one that was scheduled didn't already occur?
That's kind of my question. So like, let's say for example, you had a lockdown drill, because there was a community safety issue. And police put you in a lockdown and you held that lockdown drill. And then 2 months later, you had the scheduled lockdown drill, that was the fall. That's 2 lockdown drills, right? So, you know, what's so important? I mean, I can answer my own question. What's so important having them in the spring? Do you have different students there that may not have been there in the fall? I mean, there could be a variety of things, but I think as Liza and many of you pointed out, over your course of your career in school, how many lockdown drills are you experiencing, right? So 24, 25, 26, kindergarten all the way through. And you have to experience 26 lockdown drills to understand the concept, so.
I'll put something together, send it to Steve, and then we continue.
Bring it back next month.
Conversation with the next,
Yeah.
I'd also be happy.
Originally about that too.
I'd also be happy to send it through a board room between now and next month, and then maybe if people have, as you read it, the revision, if you have any thoughts, or certainly just pick up the phone and call Liza or call Steve, and we can work on it offline.
Now, what's their date, or what date do they have to get to the?
I think it's July.
It's next year.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, I feel like timing wise though, it needs to be a little earlier, because I feel like we miss a lot, or it comes fast when it comes, or there's no wiggle room, like they're making sure we get it done earlier, which I think we're on track to, which is good, but I think.
So yes, so as soon as the submission process opens, we can send it rather than waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought. And there also was the procedural question to be answered as far as, do we need a resolution that we vote on? You know, and how do you wordsmith that? Because if you put this in the record, it almost can be taken, if you're not careful, as we're saying, let's move from 4 lockdowns to 2. We don't have that authority yet. So it has to say something like, we agree to submit this resolution, we propose this to be submitted to the annual meeting, as opposed to, it can't look or sound like a regular resolution.
Steve, just to be clear on this, these would be announced, the 2 would be announced or unannounced?
That's a good question.
That's something, okay, that's a big concern.
I mean, I feel like if we're announcing other drills, it probably should be doing something similar. But that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up now. I don't want to say, have it come up in November and kick it another month. And yeah, so that's good.
What are the 4 right now? I know I should know, but like, are they all announced? I know the beginning ones right now.
They're announced, but they're announced next week, right? Within, is it a week's time?
But I'm saying are all 4? All 4 are announced
Yes.
right now, okay.
So we're alerting that one's coming, but not saying it's on Tuesday, 10 o'clock.
I mean, I feel like with that addition, there is, I don't know, I feel like things are growing and changing as we learn more or know more. And there still isn't great research out either way, but I feel like the state at least has been a little more open or receptive about it being trauma informed, even though I don't think it's as trauma informed as maybe it could be, but it's a step in the right direction.
Is it important we have a sentence in there that says, this doesn't minimize the importance of the drills? That, you know, it's all about safety, that even having 2 would still accomplish the goal of alerting the children and the staff of the importance of the drills. Would it be good to put a sentence in there that realizing that lockdown drills are important, and you know, there was 4, now we're going to 2. 2 are still important. The importance of the drill, regardless of how many you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally see where you're going with this. And the original draft of this before, I did very minimal editing, and maybe I should have just left this one part as is, because The last sentence ended with something along those lines where it said, it is a responsibility to mitigate potential trauma or damage while also keeping them safe. And I thought it might have read like a little confusing to have them there together, but maybe not. And to your point, Albert, that you're trying to strike that balance. So, I mean, I think that's probably just to add that portion back could be helpful.
We're not saying they're not important, but we don't want an excessive number.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense to do a separate sentence, but I think we said, the first one did say, like, mitigating trauma, but also realizing that we're responsible for the safety of students as well.
Exactly.
So I think it's an easy enough sentence to add back in.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts? Certainly let us know if anything comes up. I mean, I don't want to have too much conversation about it outside the meeting, but if it saves us time, saves us a month of like, I don't want to come back in November and have like a ton of things that we could have talked about, and then it gets pushed out to December or January, to Liza's point. It's good to wrap it up early, and then when they open the submission process, I think it's like April or May, that we're ready for that. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the update from the audit committee. So the audit committee has met twice. We met in September and took a look at the internal audit completed by BOCES, and this focused on the familiar topic of internal audits, which is access badges, but with considerably better results than we've seen before. So this has now been a duty assigned or assumed by personnel as opposed to maintenance, and this is much more under control than it has been in the past. So whatever issues that were found with the access badges and people having access badges activated that shouldn't has been already taken care of, and the corrective action plan had very, very little to correct, and the resulting action on it was pretty fast. So it's a great sign. I feel we're set up well to have much less of a repeat on that by this time next year. We met earlier in October to look at the external audit, and it had several different pieces associated with it, all of which came back looking really, really well. The contract for excellence, basically a clean bill of health on that. No issues with the extracurricular activity funds, and the financial statements came back with the much desired unmodified opinion. So that's really a triple crown for us, I think, on the external audit. So any questions or comments on either the internal or the external audit? We're looking to accept those reports as part of the G resolutions later on tonight. Moving on to the next item, rescinding policy 5330. This is a lot of me, I promise that's it after this. So we'll be looking to rescind the district's policy regarding budget transfers, as the language contained within is not really necessary because it's redundant for two policies that exist elsewhere in the book. There's one small little piece of house coming. We'll have to amend a resolution that passed in July, as now these transfers that don't require board approval, the limit has been increased from $5,010 to $10,000. So policy 5330, which we're rescinding, was referenced in the resolution that was adopted in July. So it's a little bit of inside baseball and trying to make sure that these things all play well together. But as far as things that are externally facing, really to the average person will make pretty much no difference. Any questions on 5330? Very eager to get other voices in the mix, I can tell, and so am I. So move on to a presentation on EduClimber from Jennifer Dove and Kyle Skinner.
So as Jennifer and Kyle are setting up their presentation, I know Dr. Penna remembers from his days as Binghamton High School principal, we used to do quarterly updates on dashboards, and those dashboards, going quite a ways back, we're giving updates on attendance, enrollment, some discipline information, some academic information. Some of it was lagging data, some of it was leading data, and they were done literally by hand. We had people in IT that would gather the information, put them in nice little Excel spreadsheets and create charts. We then moved from there to several products, iData and so on, and most recently Schoolzilla, which became a very nice dashboard feature, but it had limitations, and the company changed the product without letting us know, and removed our ability to create our own dashboards, if you will, or create our own displays of data. So if we wanted to see attendance against academics, we used to be able to do it, and they took that ability away. So that started our search for a better product, and we also, at the time, as we were looking within Renaissance, they had some products, was asking the question, how do we help our teachers have access to these data? So they're too not putting a lot of data dashboards, or when making a referral for support for a student, having to gather a lot of data. It's in systems. Can't these systems be speaking to one another? And while you're making a referral for support, that student's attendance data could already be there, their report card data could already be there, their baseline assessment data could be there, their discipline could be there, and so on. So we found such a product, and we have been spending, and I want to give credit to Jennifer and Kyle and our IT department, certainly Alexander Ackerman, Probosi's, for the amount of time, and Julie Tomasky, the amount of time it's taken to onboard a new electronic product. It sounds easy, like just make one system speak to another, but I assure you, it's not quite as easy as it sounds. So I'm really proud of the work that the team has put in, and so tonight they're going to give you a little insight into what these data dashboards are going to be looking like. We are releasing them slowly and deliberately, because one of the things we want to make sure is that really truly working, right? The attendance data in School Tool, which is our source system where teachers take attendance in that electronic system, is it showing up in the same way in EduClimber before we start to overtly share data. So we are doing that, and I'm not going to steal their thunder because they're going to talk about how that speaks to other systems. And also at the end, how the board will be able to begin to access data as we progress this year, so you can have real-time data at your fingertips. So with that, Jennifer.
All right, the unveiling. Right, so as Dr. Thompson really set the stage for this, it's a new centralized student data dashboard system. So bringing in attendance, academics, behavior, and talking about how the system works in supporting students' support team meetings this year. So more specifically, it can support a wide range of what we're doing, but this year we're focusing in on student support teams. And just a note that the data that we're showing on some of these snippets of pictures don't represent Binghamton students. We just wanted tonight's an overview of what is possible, what's capable, and so we'll show you that. So again, what is EduClimber? It has a district level picture of data, so we can look as a whole district, we can look by building, we can look by class, and we can narrow into one particular student. And so as Dr. Thompson was saying, a classroom teacher could click on a student, administrator could click on a student and get that whole student perspective or profile. So academics, attendance, behavior, what do we know about this one particular child? These are a little bit hard to see, but Kyle's going to take us real live into EduClimber. So again, we can get attendance data that is by grade level, by building. We can get attendance data by class, where we can look at individual students. We're familiar with the color coding, green meaning positive, yellow meaning watch, red meaning we really need to do some wraparound support. Academics, those dashboards that Dr. Thompson was talking about, where we used to do these by hand. Now we don't have to do that anymore. So EduClimber really is exciting. It's just taken a long time to get it up and running. But so this would show us a particular grade level. You can look at how they performed on common formative assessments. You can go in and see a particular class. The names are grayed out, but so you can see over time how those students are growing on those common assessments measuring essential standards. And then behavior, so again, can go in and
search by incident type, by code, by month. Oftentimes we look at patterns and we'll notice that maybe after winter break, when we come back, our incidents might go up, or we can check again by the day of the week. We can, narrow this, we can go as narrow as we want or as large as we want. And so I'll stop here and let Kyle show you in real time what this looks like.
Yeah, so before we get into the data in real time, just so that everyone knows, EduClimber does have what's called a top secret mode. It's like 007 mode, where it will void all the students' names and it'll be completely confidential. So kind of let you see the data that we would look at. So just so you know, these are not necessarily going to reflect any students within. And we're just going to switch over to the other computer with access. I promise this is going to go back.
It's okay.
All right, so this is the main dashboard that you would see when you go into EduClimber. We're going to show you a few different data pulls, but it's pretty much limitless. Tanya mentioned earlier the ability to sync with other systems. So a lot of this data is pulling from SchoolTool, which is our student information system, but then also from eDoctrina, which is one of our testing platforms, and from a whole plethora of other places within the web. Those are really the two main points that we're going to be pulling from, especially for everything we'll show you today. But really, if anything's within any of the sites that are communicating, we can pull that by ethnicity, we can pull that by grade, we can pull that by socioeconomic status. Anything you could dream up, we could pull from here. We're going to show you some base level type things today, just to kind of give you a flavor of what it looks like. So the first thing we're going to go in and do is called a grade level search, and we're going to change it to last year because we'll have more data at our fingertips with that. And then we can choose really any building and any grade level. And then we would go ahead and run our first search. So what Jennifer showed you was a bunch of screenshots of all the different things that are on here. Why we wanted to show you in live time? Because it's really nice. Once you've set those filters, I can look at any of these things, and with just a click, I can see any of the data that's available at our disposal at any given time. But in addition to that, I can also customize it. So this is telling me if a kid is proficient or not proficient, but we know that there's more within that, right? Some kids are just barely not proficient, and some kids are more than proficient. So if we were going to see it by performance level, it'll show us that breakdown as well. Everything's customizable. We can also set our own goals with this as time evolves. If you don't like the data views, as teachers are in meetings, there's also different ways that you can look at the chart. So if you didn't prefer that particular view, you can change it to any type of view that you would want. This particular example was looking at our DDI scores from last year across third grade, and it would be test 1 on the left all the way over to test 2 on the right-hand side. So that's really a surface level view of what the academic portion would look like. Tanya mentioned earlier the data boards, which as a collaborative coach, I loathed. I love data. I hated creating those boards and moving kids in and out. Now when a student transfers in or out, all their data is right at our disposal. Again, these would be our students, but it is not showing any names. So if you were to scroll, don't know why it's not showing us a bigger view, but as you scroll down, these would be all of our students. And then these would be things like tags. So we could say a Liberty Partnership might have a tag at the high school, and we can search by just how did Liberty Partnership students do, right? So we can tag a student and organize them in any way we want. And then as we get to move across here, these are things like different comments that may have been put in for the students, and then we get our scores over here. What's really nice about the assessment scores, if I scroll over just a bit, you'll see that it's given us our score overall, but then it's also going to organize all of those scores by standard. So how did this student do on this particular standard on assessment 1 versus 2 versus 3? So we start to move from red to yellow to green, ideally, and that's what you start to see in this particular data set here as well. So that is kind of in a nutshell what both the ELA and math data would look like, or any academic data for that matter. And then we also have our report cards are in there so that we can see student scores. Incidents are what we would refer to as referrals, and it will create pretty much any chart we'd like it to. Ideally, we like to see more level 1s than 2s than 3s because we're showing corrective action when a student has an infraction. We're working with them and trying to change that behavior. We can also go in and see the same data wall view. So this would show us a particular student who may have however many level 1, 2, or 3 referrals. We can also go in within that student and we can see just for that student what do those referrals look like. I'm not going to hit the drop-down boxes, but if you were to hit this, it'll actually give you a description of the incident. Potentially names could be in there, so we won't hit it for now. But that gives us a really good at-a-glance view of any one student who might be struggling, which plays into student support teams, which we're going to go through next.
So Kyle, before you move on to there, just that this is like a big wow for us, because before, what you'd have to do is go into that student's account in School Tool and then click many, many buttons to look at each individual referral, and then you have to click more buttons to figure out what the referral actually said. So it might be a verbal altercation. Well, what's going on? Who were they engaged with? Now at your fingertips, you can go into that level of detail, which Schoolzilla started to give us, and then they took that ability away, and we were like, wow, that was a huge advantage to be able to just have the information to really dig deeper in terms of the kind of support that students really wanted. The other piece I can't underscore is currently in School Tool, incidents you can't get data on. You have to download a big spreadsheet, put it in Excel, manipulate the data, because the incidents are classroom incidents. Those are things that teachers are noticing and providing support for. And then once it escalates into something that's a level 2 or level 3, we've tried to reteach, it's not working, they need a different level of support. That's when the administrator comes into level 2 or level 3. And so the ability to look at that in an instant is really kind of mind-blowing, because we actually, Kyle and I last year created charts on levels 1s, 2s, and 3s by exporting all the data, and then we looked at this and said, wow, in a clip you can see, is it working? Or are we just jumping to level 2s and 3s? Like, we're not providing the level of teaching. Sometimes that it warrants it to go right to a level 2 or 3 if it's a particularly violent act, but most of this is happening, and we catch it in those level 1s or 2s, we're going to level 3.
Just a question, Kyle and Jennifer. Are we to assume as a school board that when you give us these wonderful presentations on data that you've been doing monthly by monthly, how are we doing in our test scores, are we to assume that you would be using EduClimber to do that? And then from a school board perspective, the question is, what would be important for us to know? I mean, there's a lot of data here, stuff that we may not want to know right at hand. You would want to know it. For the school board, what would be appropriate what would be appropriate frames to put up there? Would it be district and not just individual buildings? We could certainly ask a question. How's Franklin doing? How's West doing? How's East doing? But typically with the data dashboard, the way it started in Binghamton. By the way, we're the first district to ever use a data dashboard. And I hate to, here we go again. The International Baccalaureate was the first organization educationally to do data dashboards 20 years ago. When Jeffrey Beard became the Director General, he used the term data dashboard, and we brought that to Binghamton High School. And Trina Newton was our assistant superintendent, and she started, that's how we got into this. So the data dashboard is very important to us, and we can thank the IB program for its genesis. My question is, what would be appropriate for us to know on a monthly basis as you're presenting to us, as you do well?
We're going to hit that at the end. So we're scaffolding. So right now we're in simply overview.
Right.
This is what's possible. We're going to narrow in now and talk about student support teams, how we're using it specifically in that venue this year, and then we'll talk about our next steps for the board.
Thank you.
So when I say student support team, that is a team in every building that's comprised of the principal, the social worker, the school psychologist, so a few key support people who intentionally come together and meet once a month, and they look at data around students who have been identified as having maybe needing more support for a number of different reasons. And so we've had these meetings right along, but using EduClimber is going to help to organize and keep track of these conversations and help us to pull data with just a couple of clicks to go deeper into specific students to determine what do they need, what help has happened before, etc. So I'll let Kyle go live with just giving you a picture of what this can look like and what.
Yeah, so this is a sample meeting that we've set up for training purposes. What's really neat about this is all the students would go into the same agenda, so it's just one invite that will kind of blast email out to everyone who needs to know about it. In this particular case, we just picked some administrators that we could assign to the meeting. This is how you take your attendance. If you want to put an agenda in there, the agenda would be in there as well. And then you kind of navigate through these tabs here along the side. The first tab being students. So when I go to the students, it would bring me a list. Again, these are generic random numbers that represent our students because it's in secret mode. But I would bring it up to the first student. Our intervention tab along here is blank because obviously we don't have any interventions in place. But what normally would happen is if we're having a student that was having some behavioral concerns, they were in check-in, check-out so they could have a mentor in the building. They would be assigned a score. All of their intervention scores would get entered here instead of the spreadsheet that they used to be on. And it's going to create a nice little chart that's going to show us what that student's progress is looking like. And are they making positive gains? Are they regressing? And then we can have some deeper conversation about that student. Again, I'm going to set this to last year's data so we have something to look at. If we then were to go to their assessments, just by clicking on assessments, it's going to give us all of their academic data. I can see their literacy, their math, their science, or I can just look at all data all at once. This is a high school student, so it gives you the course-by-course data. So again, if we were having a student support team meeting before, we would be in School Tool, but then there would be another tab that might have eDoctrina open and another tab that might have a data dashboard open. Now it's putting that student's whole dashboard right in front of us at our fingertips. The next one that you could click on would be incidents. So I don't know if this student had any incidents the year prior, but any incidents would show up here. And then we could also say we want to see them in a data list, and it would give us that breakdown of the incident that I mentioned before. We can also see their attendance here. And then the notes would be taken in what EduClimber calls and when you're with the attendance too, you can see it by month, by weekday, really any way you want to see the attendance. So you can start to look for trends. If this kid misses every Friday, how can we get more proactive with that? And it's just a couple of clicks away to change how you might want to do that. And then the last piece on here is the smart forms. So at the meeting, a student would be assigned a smart form. It will autofill all of the information for you. So teachers don't have to go fill out the whole form. About 50% of the form will get autofilled with their demographic information. The rest is kind of an update on how the kid is doing. We can take our notes from the meeting right in here, and by the end of the meeting, it'll generate a really nice looking PDF that we can then tag to that kid's account. And whoever has access to see that student would be able to see what kind of updates they're having. If there's more sensitive information that we don't want the world to see, and we want to keep it in the notes section over here along the left, we would then be able to add whatever notes there, and only people who are invited to the meeting would be able to see that because they were actually at the meeting. And then the final feature in the meetings that's really nice is you can assign tasks to people, right? We all know how life works. I'm supposed to call that parent at the end of the day today. Things happen and dismissal gets crazy. If I assign a task for Jennifer to call a parent, it will send her daily email reminders until she marks it as completed in there, so we can make sure that everything that we said would happen in the meeting is happening, and it's happening in a timely manner. So that's kind of in a nutshell what that meetings feature would look like. Another cool piece that I thought was really neat to EduClimber and made it unique, normally the students, these little bubbles here, and you'll see they're bigger on some of the other view pages, are actual pictures of the student's face, so you have them right there. So if a bigger building like the high school, not everyone may know that student by name, but know the face and know who that kid is also.
All right, just gonna put the other slides back up.
The other thing I'll add is that this meeting structure, we do have student support team meetings across the district, and so to get us into the work, Kyle had asked some of our administrators who have processes in place to come together over the summer and give input in terms of what should this look like, because it's not like here's the system, you actually create it, right? Which was pretty outstanding. And through that work, now this will continue, and we were able to secure a multi-tiered systems of support coordinator who's working now with buildings on this. So we have a person who's trained and learning very quickly about the process, but also helping building by building onboard the process. So it's not just kind of, here you go, here's a new tool to use. And we really wanted to try to embed it with fidelity. And I'm going to turn over so they can talk a little more about student support teams.
So again, I talked through this slide without showing the slide, but so the focus is on attendance, behavior, and basic needs for students. And again, there's the team, and that they meet monthly, review student progress, set goals, and again, in EduClimber, that's going to be the record-keeping part of this process as well. So our implementation goals for this year. So our first goal is to onboard the data wall for all teaching staff so that everyone has access and can see the data that Kyle just walked us through. To use this for student support team meetings. So again, we're doing roll-through trainings for every building so that all buildings are getting that support for how to use EduClimber for these student support team meetings. And then tracking all major academic, behavior, and attendance data points. And so our next steps as far as, what's the role of the board, what level of data will the board see? So tonight was an overview, this is what EduClimber is, these are possibilities, and then our vision for next steps. Did you want to talk to that or not?
Certainly can, but is to take the data that we are holding ourselves accountable with the DSEP, the District's Comprehensive Improvement Plan. We have specific goals listed there and create dashboards that when a board member is to go in, you would see that district level data to see what's the progress made this month, for example, on attendance, what's the progress made this month on incidents, what's the progress being made this month on ELA data, on math data, and so right now, that's what Kyle and Jennifer are working on, and the preliminary images.
So when we have those dashboards ready that measure the DSEP goals, then the next step would be maybe doing a training for the board.
When you create one of those dashboards, it affords you the opportunity to share that with anyone within the system. So we can create a board dashboard that's specific, like Tanya said, to those DSEP goals for you. And every time you log in with a new day, it will update with new data without having to refresh or do anything. The same can be said for like a building principal who says, hey, we really are trying to look at attendance this way this year. Emily Dayback can create that, that customized dashboard and share that with the building principal so they have that updated daily view.
So will this all be used too, like I'm thinking the behavior committee, attendance committee, all those committees?
You dream it, it will give you that data. I could go on, and I'm trying not to get too in-depth with it because it excites me. But yes, if the attendance task force said, hey, we would really like to see data like X, Y, and Z, we will create that customization. And when they go to meet monthly, all we have to do is bring it up on the computer and it's there and update it.
Okay, is there any kind of parent part of this? Like, say I have a kid who has a lot of needs or is on a behavior plan, like, will parents be able to access it, or is it something that part of it you can like print out and give to parents if they want to know, like, what I would want to know what discussions are happening about my kid, like even if I wasn't there.
So some of those PDFs that I mentioned earlier are really nice reports that you would be able to print off and give to a parent to update them on how did the meeting go in regard to my student's behavior or how things are progressing with it.
And is there a place for that, or that's only if parents ask for it, or?
I think that there is a place for that. There's an ability to invite, right? A parent can come to meetings. I know I've witnessed the high school students coming to their own student support meetings, after discussion has taken place, and then you can create that opportunity. One of the attractive features here is that it is one place to collect all that information. And it sits outside of school tool, and you might think, well, is that a way to advantage? Isn't that what parents can go into? Well, this is educators talking about their practice and supports. So it's something between that and then what we would put as part of a student's permanent record, right, is that conversation that we move forward. So I don't know that, I couldn't speak right now to this is the form that we print and send to parents. I don't know that we've gotten that finite, but certainly if a parent were to call and want to know what their child's data looks like, we absolutely can just share with them. Yeah.
The ability exists, I guess I should say, to create a PDF that would generate like that. Yeah.
Right, so we're starting small-ish. We're starting with access to the data boards for all teaching staff. We're starting with student support team using this for that. The potential is endless. So we're really starting, and we'll see where we get this year and then add on another layer next year.
So right now, in terms of interventions for behavior, we have one called check-in, check-out, where a student's assigned to another adult in the building, and they set a goal for that student. Often they're attendance goals, and so maybe the first grade teacher is their check-in, check-out person, even though they're in fourth grade. They might go by to that first grade classroom in the morning and say, hey, good morning to them, and the teacher checks in with them and says, okay, remember your goal today is to work extra hard on mathematics. You came in today, this is fantastic. Remember our goal this week is to at least make 3 days this week. You're on a good start, and gives them that support. And we collect that data, and that actually goes to the behavior task force. That data can go into the system now. And so that's what they're putting into place. Next year's goal is to have the academic interventions go in here, which is currently in a system called response to intervention, which is only seen by the interventionists. So a classroom teacher can't see that intervention support. And that's the other beautiful part about this, is that everybody on the team working with that student, whether you're the core first good instruction or your additional support for intervention, you'll be able to see the progress being made when it's being used. So that was another attractive feature.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm excited for you all. Just having like used school tool in the past and then seeing the comparison, I'm excited.
Or responsive. This is amazing. We can't wait till you give us our tutorial.
Your driving lessons.
Patient.
Yes. Yes, more to come.
Yeah, I'm with the rest of you. I can't wait to go in and take a look and see what's there, to be able to have that access to see from month to month, how are we progressing along, and it's all part of what we should be doing, and to hear the value adds behind this platform as well as, I mean, it looks cool, and certainly many things do, but it really will improve a lot, I think, what we're already doing. So, and the ability to tie together data from various platforms is always very helpful as well. So thank you. Look forward to more in the future.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the second public comment portion of the meeting. Again, 3 minutes per person. We cannot address personnel or individual student matters. State your name if you are going to be speaking in relationship to the district. Would anyone like to speak? Seeing none, we'll go to new business and certified C resolutions. Could I have a motion, please, on resolution C1 through C8? Moved by Liza, seconded by Carrie. We'll go ahead and read resolution C1. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education does and hereby record the passing of Brenda Peak, kindergarten teacher, who served and dedicated her career to the Binghamton School District since October 3rd, 2005. Be it further resolved that the board recognizes the invaluable contributions of Brenda Peak to her students and to the district, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends our sincere condolences to family, friends and coworkers of Brenda Peak on behalf of the district. And is there one more to read? C8. Liza, could you please read C8? Oh, sure.
I'm here. Whereas Christine Bellino has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since February 2nd, 1996 as an elementary teacher, interim director of early education, interim assistant principal, elementary assistant principal of Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, and in her most recent roles as principal of West Middle School. And whereas Christine Bellino has submitted her intention to retire effective at the end of the day on January 21st, 2026. You want me to read the next paragraph?
Sure.
Now, therefore, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education does and hereby accepts their request for retirement, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends to Christine Bellino its sincere thanks and the thanks of the community for their efforts on behalf of the students of the district, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends to them its sincere best wishes for a long, happy, and prosperous retirement.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Certified stipend CS resolutions. Could I have a motion on resolutions CS1 through CS6? Moved by Albert, seconded by Shante. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Non-certified NC resolutions. Could I have have a motion on resolutions NC1 through NC8, please? Moved by Carrie, seconded by Liza. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. And the general G resolutions, could I have a motion, please, on resolutions G1 through G17? Moved by Liza, seconded by Carrie. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button?
Yes.
Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. And for the benefit of those in the audience, whether it's here in person or watching on the stream, Resolution G14 pertains to the capital vote regarding the Theodore Roosevelt School, setting the date of the vote as December 10th, with a public hearing to be held 1 week prior on December 3rd. That'll bring us to updates from the superintendent.
First, I just want to extend another thank you publicly to our Board of Education. This week is Board of Education Recognition Week. And thanks also to East Middle School, who hosted just a gorgeous breakfast this morning, and we really enjoyed the talents of our East Middle School's voices and instrumental music. They were just fantastic, and some of you see some of the work of the arts department with beautiful paintings. I was extremely jealous and stated so that next year they need to make 8, not 7 items, because they were really, really just beautiful and very nice. But again, thank you for your service. I know this is a job that can be very tireless and a lot of commitment, particularly on the weekends and reading up on the information that's happened during the week. But as I said this morning, I feel very fortunate to be working with 7 board members who really don't bring any agendas other than to do the best thing for our students and faculty and staff and community. So thank you again. I also just wanted to extend a congratulations to our distinguished graduates. It was a fabulous event. Thank you for Carrie. Unfortunately, Steve had other commitment on behalf of the board that evening, but it was just a tremendous evening. Dr. Penna was there, Maria was there. It was just really special, and I think this may be one of the first years, I'm sure it's been done in the past, because it was the 30th anniversary, where one of the awardees purchased a table for our students to sit at. And it was all the seniors on the basketball team, and Bob Baxter extended that graciously, and they were there dressed, attentive, engaged, and that was the point, was that in your course of your lifespan, these are opportunities where you can learn from others, and how do you do that in a real respectful and supportive way. So that was particularly touching, but and again, it was really just tremendous. last week's home football game. We won against Ithaca. That was extremely, and Dr. Penn was also there.
Kids needed that.
They needed that. Our community, it was a gorgeous night too. It was just a beautiful, beautiful night. And I know they had a homecoming dance after that as well. And I also just wanted to share that through Kyle Skinner's work with our grants writer, we are in the process of applying for a grant to do a traffic study on Binghamton High School. We've been working with the city. Steve and I met with the mayor last week, and we talked about a number of safety concerns just in terms of the community at large, but also what can they do on Oak Street. We changed the entrance to Oak Street. Now we have a lot of students onboarding and offboarding there. They provided some suggestions. We provided some additional suggestions, but really what we need is a traffic study so that we can say this is how you need to build a safe crosswalk, and what maybe it's a one-way street that has to turn into all other suggestions. So we certainly have access through our architects. Pastor O can do traffic studies, but and engineers, but we want to try to get the money and not have to do all the work for the city. And ultimately, there's two parts. One for the traffic study, and part two is to then, whatever it realizes, to pay for that. So we've been working, Kevin Richmond, the building principal, and he has actually gone to the traffic bureau meetings and articulated and been trying to push this as an agenda item for them to address, because it can be very unsafe with the double and triple parking and the speeds at which people are going down. So I just wanted to inform the board that we are working hard on that. And then finally, really pleased that Carrie, Steve, and I were able to meet with professor from Ithaca, current board, Sean Persley. Sean. From Ithaca, and he's the board president currently. He's done quite a number of board trainings, and excited to bring him on board to help with the induction of new board members, but also just thinking about leadership on a different level and just reinforcing some of the governance components that we have in place. And so thank you for completing the straw poll. We'll get some dates in place when we hear back from Sean. I think we were impressed and that he was able to take all the information that we were able to present to him, and then he's going to forward some topics and some agenda items, of course, which we'll share with the board to make sure we're all on the same page and we can get those started. So that's all I have.
Thank you. It looks like we've set the date as December 5th for that. So
great. Thank you. See?
From
all
5
this
days.
magic happening while I'm talking.
December 5th from 5 days. We'll send an email out, so you don't have to write it down right this second. But I just want to echo my thanks to East Middle School for being such a great host this morning. I always look forward to the board recognition breakfast every year, and the works of art and I couldn't decide which one of the paintings are all so beautiful, so like we wait it out and see what others pick, and then I'll take a turn and I have it in my office at the university, and alongside year by year all of the different pieces of art from the students, and it always makes me happy to have those year after year. And I hated to miss that Distinguished Graduates Dinner, but at the same time we had the NISBA annual meeting. It was a 5+ hour meeting on Zoom, and so the dinner sounds like much more fun in comparison. I sent around, you may have had a chance to take a look at the results from the meeting. Not surprisingly, all of the resolutions that were backed by the resolutions committee all passed. The ones that weren't were defeated except for one. So it went pretty much the way that at least I expected it would go for the most part. And some pretty lively discussions on the various topics throughout that book of resolutions. And so I know when it comes to next year and we submit our resolution on the lockdowns, it'll be interesting to see the different viewpoints that people have on it. And all of that hopefully makes for better education policy in the end. So we'll stay tuned for that. And our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, November 19th. We'll have West Middle School for the school recognition, an update from the policy committees. We're almost to the mid-year milepost, and a presentation on collaborative teams. And with that, I will ask for, yes.
Can I just add one thing? I wanted to thank Dr. Thompson, everybody involved in the budget, or however it all comes up, but to continue supporting Odyssey of the Mind. I think it's really important that and amazing that we have as many teams funded as we do and coaches, because it's not happening in every district, and it is such an important experience for our kids. And so I hope we never stop that, but I think that when we talk about being a school of choice, I think that is definitely something that shines above many other districts.
I would say that, and because these are all programs that I used to work really closely with, so just supporting enrichment in general. We are the only district, I believe, now that still has an enrichment program specifically. Not that OM is necessarily tied to that, but a lot of the same students benefit.
I think it does blend different kids, it's just good, and they do it year after year, many kids.
Yes, we'll be sure when the competition comes up, typically it's up at BOCES, to get the schedule of events, what time and what building different performances are, and perhaps we can even have a team come who's successful or maybe associated with the building that month to see some of the performances, because they are really, really quite special.
Anything else? Could I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Carrie, seconded by Eliza. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.